are capped wells, these are plug wells. The red dots are producing wells. Some of the red dots are maybe not producing, but are in the process of being drilled. But these are, the easiest way to divide it are active wells versus plug wells. The small green dots are plug wells. These red dots are active wells. As you can see, according to this map, there are active wells within the city limits right there. There are some plug wells in places as the applicant has pointed out. This is in Doublegate subdivision. This is in St. John's Trace. These are fairly old subdivisions, so we don't have a lot of records indicating, you know, in fact, that we could not find a record of any discussion about plugging well wells.
So anything with a cross through it means it's plugged?
Yeah, I think if you look at this other map provided by the applicant,
Or some kind of mark on it?
these have crosses or lines through them,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe those are plug wells. And there are even there's a lot of plug wells shown down here too, which is consistent with the map that I have. This is the airport. Here, there's a lot of active wells that have sprung up to the west of the municipal airport, right down here. Just in general, there are issues related to hazards. There are also issues related to hazards from operating wells. There are also issues related to plug wells that are located.
What are they? That was one of my questions.
Can we see that map again?
This one?
Thank you.
So, without confusing the issue, my understanding is there have been no incidents where there's been some damage caused by someone hitting a plug well in Gardner. We are compiling some other information right now just to better understand the oil well issue in general, and there have been some incidents that have happened around the country, people striking wells where there have been methane gas explosions, that kind of thing. So there are some inherent issues related to that. I think one of the issues that would be overlooked with this application is just the fact that the long-range plans for residential development, and the applicant is requesting a 20-year permit. So whether there are hazards or not, it's a land use issue.
Which I understand. I guess my question would be, for our planning, what is our, so for $4 million over 40 years, they were wanting 20 years of that. When do you think we're going to have residential population to fill that land? I mean, if 10 years from now, then that's a whole other story. If it's 2, then, I mean, what, with the population estimate?
I think that's a very hard question to answer right now. Certainly, there's not a lot of heavy development pressure for new residential development in Gardner. As we've gone through this new comprehensive planning process, this process of drafting new comprehensive plan, it's hard to speculate the population growth past 5 years. But certainly, there's a lot of area in Gardner already that has not filled in with residential development. So, you know, I'm not trying to...
I think that's my concern, why I'm wavering on this, because if we can't say for certain in 5 years we're going to put houses there, then we're just keeping empty land that could be used for something, but we don't know the potential health risk. We don't have good data, is what is making me waver.
Well, I don't believe that it's empty land, really. I mean, we built Celebration Park, and we made those improvements, and the recession hit, and it took years for some homes down the street from me, Genesis Creek Estates. It stalled and for a handful of years, and then picked back up, and there's no way to tell. For me, it's more of a land issue too. Not that I don't care about the health risk at all, but my issue really is with the land. You know, we built all that in anticipation of, and everything recovers. The market always recovers. I feel like we're on the cusp of that right now. I'm starting to see homes go up in Gardner for the first time in years. It's really exciting. And there's no way to tell when a developer's gonna want that land or not.
But I think they're saying it's more economically just better for them for it to be residential, I think if I heard correctly. So they're saying they drill on it until, you know, Gardner's ready to build homes on that, and then it makes sense for them to stop drilling, correct? And do it residential?
I don't see how they can turn around and market it as residential if there's oil fields.
Yeah.
Well, that's where they have to plug it.
I think it might
They can, if
be
they're
less
plugged, it
desirable.
can then be a residential property, correct?
I think it might be less desirable for the developer.
Well, not if we've got 7 other residential neighborhoods on,
Well, mine sits on, I live in one of them.
And, I mean.
And my builder actually told me that there was a plugged oil well there, and there is. In fact, our house is built on a spring. They actually had a lot of data on what our land had. I feel a lot more comfortable sitting on a year plugged oil well than I do one that's plugged and built on immediately.
Something else you should also consider in that respect, and maybe the applicant could address this, is the issue of the economic investment associated with drilling a well. And once you've drilled that well, you've put a significant amount of money in the drilling of that well, and how much time they need to realize their investment in that well. So if that economic development comes along, is it going to be economically possible for them to just walk away from these wells and sell the property? And that's something that is addressed by the staff report, and maybe the developer could address that, or pardon me, the applicant.
Hi, my name is Scott Ryber. I'm an attorney for the landowners. Keith Brock is going to address that issue, what he just mentioned right there, but I did just want to say something that you discussed this about the plugging the wells in the neighborhoods and that sort of thing. And what we really did is we went through the whole city of Gardner, and almost all the subdivision has plugged wells. If you'll notice, what we did is we went through and we identified where you all live in your subdivision, and what we were trying to point out to you is that in your own neighborhood, 5 of the 7 of you have plugged wells in that neighborhood. So without identifying it specifically, we were just trying to bring it home and explain to you that you probably haven't noticed any problems or any issues around your own neighborhood, and so we identified those specifically. But the truth of it is almost all the subdivisions in Gardner have plugged wells. So I just wanted, so you can get over that, I just wanted to explain to you what our intent was by identifying those neighborhoods and why we mentioned it. The staff said that that was a problem with future development, and frankly, it is not. And that was the best example that we had to show to you that it wasn't a problem with future development. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that so you can get past that. In a minute, Keith Brock will address the issue that was brought up in regards to the cost assessment. But the bottom line is, and something that, again, we tried to mention is, and you specifically brought it up about future development, the minute that this property is ready to be developed, we can plug those wells and it can be developed. So there is no concern with that, and I just want to be clear on that. Environmentally, economically, anything. And I've been involved with that situation at 167th and Waverly. I represented the landowner at that time whenever there was a lawsuit involved, and whenever the city of Gardner was brought into that lawsuit, it was eventually dismissed and the property was platted and developed. Now, it's not fully developed, as you mentioned, because the housing industry went under, but it still has the opportunity to be developed even with the oil and gas business. So I just wanted to say that.
Is there a greater risk for a newly plugged well versus one that's been plugged for 40 years? I would think maybe the opposite. The older it is, it could rust and whatever.
I would say new wells drilled and plugged properly of anything would be the safest, for sure. I could outline on this map, just for curiosity, but whenever you see an open circle with 4 lines,